Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom and Charles. I am Dom. He is Charles.
Hello.
And our guest today is comedian Grace Jarvis. Hey, Grace.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Your show has an excellent title. This is the last Goldfish that I'm going to eat for you. It's on at the Sydney Comedy Festival, 29th and 30th of April, 9th to the 13th of May at the New Zealand Comedy Festival, and, no boasting, 2nd to the 13th of August at the Edinburgh Fringe. Hello.
Oh, very nice.
How many goldfish were harmed in the making of this show, Grace? How many?
No goldfish. No, the goldfish is fictional. No one was harmed.
I'm slightly disappointed by that because I saw the title and I thought that I have so many questions about this. I'm so glad we get the chance to ask them here.
Well, it's called that because my dad thought that would be a good name for a comedy festival show when I was about 19 and had only been doing comedy 8 months, and I wrote it down, and then that's the story. My dad is very involved in my career.
Because I thought it was a very savvy title. I thought, what she's doing is she's trying to provoke the vegan.
Oh, right.
Because you know how Lewis Spears made all those Dalai Lama jokes at the Melbourne Comedy Festival? He got picketed. And then he did a sellout run because, you know, it didn't matter about the quality of his show. He got all the attention.
It is a good method. I do think I did do that in a way in that I feel like once people know your name enough, it doesn't really matter what your show is called. They just come in to see you.
Oh, yeah.
But no one knows who I am. So at least my show title and poster are like interesting.
I mean, I was envisaging some kind of puppet master who's made you eat a succession of goldfish over the years. Maybe has some sort of vendetta against sort of ornamental fish, and then at some point you've just gone, I'm taking agency, I'm taking control of my own life. No more. This one, yes. Yes, this one's fine. You can have this one, but there's an upper limit and we've reached it. I thought it was a heroic story of sort of stepping forward and taking agency, Grace.
Well, it is that in that sense, that is the story very much. It's about sort of all the stuff I did to try and make friends as a kid before I realized I had autism, and just like how low the bar is for being considered a weird kid and like stuff like that. And then, just being like, I'm not going to eat the goldfish anymore. I'm not going to do stuff that you think makes me normal because it's not working.
Yeah, and frankly,
you don't like it and I
if
don't
you'd
like
ever been
it.
told that consuming goldfish would lead to the warm embrace of everybody in your primary school class or something, no, that's not going to work out. I do recall I went to England when I was in primary school though, and oh my God, making friends is impossible. I mean, I've never been good at it, but I had to pretend to like soccer for years.
Oh God, in England, yeah.
That's worse than eating a goldfish.
I think my problem is that I never pretended to like anything I didn't like. And so maybe that would have helped, actually. I never thought of it as an option for some reason, which is probably half the problem.
That's a genuine question. Would you rather have friends or integrity? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Autistic people usually say integrity.
Well, but isn't it that it just doesn't occur to autistic? Because my son's autistic, and you sort of go, well, why don't you just, because we were at a party yesterday and there was a whole lot of people playing, Nintendo Switch, like kids his age. And we went, but like, you like Switch, don't you? Like, you like playing Nintendo. And it was like, but I don't like that game. And it's like, and that was the end of it. It's like, well, why can't you just pretend that you like that game? But it didn't occur to him.
Oh, I understand his logic so much.
But I'm wondering if that's correct in the long run.
Right.
Because otherwise you twist yourself into knots and you end up spending hours playing a crap game that you hate. Like, who's the winner in that scenario?
But you end up with friends.
But they're not real friends if they make you play the bad game, Charles. I don't know.
He's right.
I think this makes a lot of sense. I think I'm convinced by the logic of this, actually.
So let's cut to the end. Like, not spoiler alert, but do you have friends now? Like, did you get to work out how to do that?
Yes. Well, I didn't make friends my whole first year of uni, and I didn't drink, which I think was half the problem again, because all 18-year-olds want to do is get completely wasted. And I was like, I have a chronic pain disorder. I'm going to dislocate an ankle. I can't get more relaxed than this. And then I eventually was like, oh, I'm 18. I can go into bars to do comedy. And so, I made friends they were sort of my only friends I've ever made as an adult have been comedians.
Brilliant.
Oh my God, but they're the biggest weirdos of all.
Yeah, they're mostly all also autistic, to be honest. It's hard. I think that's part of it.
See, again, I admire your life choices here, Grace, because I didn't drink much either when I was 18, but that was for a much worse reason, which was that I was fairly religious and I had a Christian girlfriend who disapproved of drinking. So I spent my whole first year of uni able to drink, willing to drink, yet not drinking. And in hindsight, it was terrible. Yeah. It was an awful way to spend the year of being 18 for a totally stupid reason. And also my year of being 19. But that's another story. So again, had I gone and done comedy and made friends with comedians rather than Christians, I would have been miles better off.
You might be dead, but you might be an alcoholic by now, to be fair. It's pros and cons.
And also that would have required you to be funny, Dom.
Oh, yeah. That's a problem.
You said before nobody knows who Grace Jarvis is. Who is Grace Jarvis?
That's a very confronting question, Charles. A very confronting question.
Like, have you managed to answer that?
Comedian.
What?
Pardon?
Have you managed to answer that?
I don't know that that's supposed to be the answer to the question in my second ever show. Like,
right, okay, yeah.
I'm not sure I figured that out until like my last one,
I've got a theory about people doing I didn't realise it was your second ever show. I've got a theory.
It's my third ever show, second solo show.
Is it like difficult second show?
Yes, absolutely. So, and I saw this even this year. It happens every year. People have a sort of successful first show and they go, oh, yeah, I'm really good. And then they do the difficult second show and they get earnest or ambitious, right? Like they go, oh, I'm going to do, and I've got a friend, I don't think I will name her name because it's too bad, right? Oh, no, maybe I should. Sarah Kendall, right? So who's very successful.
I adore Sarah Kendall. She's part of the reason I started comedy.
Oh, right. Well, there you go.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, she's very good at it now.
Yes.
No.
I used to watch her on the gala when I was a kid. I loved her.
Yeah, she's brilliant, right? And her first show, brilliant. Sold out every night at the Melbourne Town Hall, blah, 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 blah. Second show, she decides to do about war.
Oh, I remember the war show.
I remember war show.
Yeah.
And it's like the most ambitious idea. Like, I am going to do a show which isn't necessarily even funny, but it does end with the moral that war is bad, right? and she did. And
she's not wrong.
And yeah, she's not wrong. But it sort of it wasn't funny because, like, I mean, it's sort of.
Well, unfortunately, most of my shows are a little bit about war because I'm raised by veterans. So.
Oh wow! Oh dear! Right.
Unfortunately, whatever I try and write, I always end up with a little fucking joke about veterans or
I think the difference might be that's actually a connection with lived experience of war rather than a comedian coming in and going, hey guys, I've got this amazing insight about war. It's not
It's
great.
bad
it's not
news,
great.
guys.
But it is hard
I condone this. Also, bad news.
But also, don't they make you come up with
all
the
the
title
men in my
of the show?
life have PTSD.
Oh my God.
What did you say?
Don't they make you come up with the title though months before?
Oh yeah,
and so
that's
you've then
why.
got and so that's why I think with the Will Anderson approach is sensible because just endless puns on your name that have nothing to do with the content of the show. Whereas if you said
Michael Hing does that as well.
Yeah.
That's also
long
his
live the
method.
Hing.
You don't have to.
If you
write
said it's
to
going to be
theme.
called War, then you can't go, okay, here's a bunch of observations about cafes. You know, you just kind of box into a corner.
Well, you could do that with Grace Jarvis. Grace is a perfect word.
Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
Not an original.
Yeah, I have sort of not done it on purpose.
No.
Just in that I'm already sort of treading on Will Anderson's turf, what with my having chronic pain in my hips.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, that's
I don't want him to think I'm coming for his territory.
that must be inconvenient to have a very unpleasant medical condition that is the same as a comedian who's already done shows about it.
Yes.
I know, he's already come. I used to watch him on the gala too, and he would do jokes. I can't remember the joke. I can't remember what year it was, but he had this joke about how he has a doctor. And he was like, the doctor was like, what do you take for daily pain? And he said, I take Panadol Osteo. And he went, oh, Panadol Osteo, you can take that every day because it does fuck all. You should take that Panadol Rapid. It does fuck all quickly. And I was like a 15-year-old with chronic pain being like, this guy gets it. He does do fuck all.
The Chaser Report. Now with extra whispers.
Do you feel like you've been boxed out of most of your identities? Because, like, Hannah Gadsby probably has the upper hand on autism now.
Damn it.
Will's got the chronic
I'd
pain.
forgotten.
Do you need to acquire some other sort of terrible... Oh, not terrible. I mean, wonderful difference that you can sort of trade on.
Maybe you could talk about awkward interviews. That would
No, that's mine. That's mine. I've already got locked that up.
Yeah, I guess I'm more of a combo. I've got the children of veterans thing,
Yes.
chronic pain, autism, PTSD. Like, I got a lot of elements I can pull from.
And so your parents, they went to war?
My dad, yeah, he was in Iraq and East Timor and Papua New Guinea. Yeah.
Wow. And does he not talk about it, or does he talk about it? Like,
He talks about it. It's weird. I don't know if this is like a universal dad experience, but he'll reveal his lore in very short bursts.
yes.
So every time something new comes up, my sister and I are like, write it down.
My grandfather was like
We haven't
that.
heard this one
You
before.
get
Write
the
it down.
very occasional little tiny burst of insight into some horrific thing that he did. Because he got given the Distinguished Service Cross, my grandfather, and we don't really know why. And it was either, he always
that's
sort of
unnerving.
was playing it down as like it was some administrative error. But presumably that's not a thing. Like presumably he did some amazing / terrible thing that we'll never know about.
Yes.
And I don't want to know it. But it must be, and
Yeah,
his whole
it's
thing was
best
just
not
to
to ask.
repress all the detail. He just never really talked about it much at all. It would be nice to get fragments occasionally, I think. It would have been nice.
The fragments are very interesting. I love this story, and I've tried to tell it in stand-up before. People don't really like it, but he hurt his back just before he went to his posting, and it was like in resistance to interrogation training, because the Australian military is very poorly organised. It's probably bad to say this after Anzac Day, but they forgot to send him to resistance to interrogation training until like the week before he was going. So they did it at the last second.
That doesn't
and
sound
everybody
ideal.
Everybody got way more traumatized in like a wool shed in regional Queensland than they did in the actual war zone. And they hurt his back, and he went anyway, and he couldn't run. And so he was like, this is my plan. If we get shot down, because he's a helicopter pilot, if we get shot down, you guys run and I'll stay and pretend to be local.
Oh my God.
Which is a phrase that I have always adored, because my dad is a white man who speaks English. What would that be? What would pretending to be local look like? Just sitting in the sand like a Monty Python sketch? Amazing. Like,
Yeah, that wouldn't last all that long.
No!
I can imagine though. I mean, I'm not an expert in anything to do with the military, but I would think that at the point where your training leaves your recruits unable to run in a war zone, you've kind of fucked it up at that point, haven't you?
I reckon reconsider.
Yeah, I think
everybody was very upset.
God.
I was very little. I do feel a bit weird about telling these stories, but you know.
But
I was
it's
very
worth
little.
noting.
I was not participating in the conversation.
But it
He
is
also-
comedically bad. It's clearly like darkly bad how that they fucked up the training to that degree. That sorry,
fucked up
you're
so
supposed to have
badly.
resistance to interrogation training. You're going next week. Let's just squeeze a bit in. We'll do it in a wool
Let's
shed.
tie
There's a
you
wool
up
shed
in a
here.
wool shed.
And your back might not make it. But at least you will have had the resistance to interrogation training, while at the same time giving you an injury, making you unable to escape, and thereby inevitably getting interrogated.
Requiring you to use resistance to
Yes.
interrogation training.
It's like
I think it was literally they were like, well, we can't go without ticking this box.
Yeah.
And it's like, can you have a little bit of nuance around this situation,
it's like,
maybe?
well, you've trained for it now, so we may as well make sure you need it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, true.
ouch.
I wrote an essay in uni about how my dad got injured and then he went, he got deployed and then he came back, and my childhood guinea pig had both of his back legs paralyzed. So he also couldn't run. And I think the purpose of a guinea pig
Is to
is
run.
to teach a child about death.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I think in this situation, most guinea pigs would be put down. But my dad was so injured and just back from a war zone, and like,
Yes.
I don't know, didn't want us to feel like we could put him down,
Yes.
kind of thing. So we gave him little we gave our guinea pig little physical therapy, like occupational therapy,
Oh.
and got his legs working again.
That's so sweet. And yeah, I mean, at the point where he identifies with the guinea pig, that's probably another whole separate problem. But
It's another problem with the Australian Army, I would say.
yes, I'd say so. Now, speaking of
Very metaphorical, though.
deeply traumatic experiences,
It was a great essay. I got great grades.
yeah.
on it.
well, they can't mark you down, can they?
metaphor.
They can't
Yeah.
give you like, oh yeah, look, that's a bare pass.
It really cross translates those two events.
Absolutely. Now, look, speaking of trauma, you've been listening to Ed Sheeran, and I'm fascinated to hear what your thoughts are on this.
I'm not
because-
sure that I've been listening to Ed Sheeran so much as the entire world is constantly hit over the head with Ed Sheeran.
yes.
So it's hard to avoid.
But I gather you've been looking into this whole question of whether or not he ripped off Marvin Gaye, which is in the
Yes.
courts at the moment. And I would think if you're on that jury, you would have to listen to "Thinking Out Loud" by Ed Sheeran hundreds of times. You know,
and
in
without
the
the lyrics
jury
as
box.
well.
It would be brutal.
The lyrics are legally irrelevant. So they just have to hear the acoustic, like just the melody of Thinking Out Loud so many times in conjunction with Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On. It feels like another form of resistance to interrogation training. Like that's
Absolutely.
torturous event.
Although I must say that it is the coolest thing I've ever heard about Ed Sheeran, that he might have stolen something from Marvin Gaye. Like that's,
yeah.
if I was him, I'd be going, "Yep, I did. I'm just
And
channel
so's
Marvin
the
Gaye.
rest of my work.
I have a percentage on everything, Marvin."
Well, apparently he's done versions of Thinking Out Loud on stage that turn into to Let's Get It On. Like he does
it's a
the
bit
medley
sus.
himself.
That's sus.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But also, it's not like I've heard both of those songs. The vibes are different.
yeah, because Ed Sheeran cannot, within any as talented as he is in many ways, there is no soul in the man. Like you cannot. He has 0% Marvin Gaye vibes.
He might be all. He's got a soul, but it's not horny. It's not
No.
horny enough. There's no sexiness
There's
in
no
any of Ed
sexual
Sheeran's
chemistry.
songs.
No.
No.
If anything, he's asexual. If anything, playing an Ed Sheeran song in the bedroom, I would think would quieten things down. Like if you brought a date
Yeah.
home and you wanted to not get it on with them, you'd put on Ed Sheeran, wouldn't you?
Ed Sheeran is what you play when you're closing down a cafe and you want people to know that you're not open anymore.
That's right. And that's
We are mopping. The machine is off. Don't come in.
And didn't he get sued over Shape of You as well, which is his one horny song? And clearly, like, there's no way that the horniness in that song comes from Ed Sheeran's own hormones. Like, that's just not a thing. Surely.
No, that's probably whoever was writing it with him stealing it from. What was that? What song did they think that was?
I don't remember, but he's had a bunch of these lawsuits now, and he's sort of saying, "Oh, it's really sad, you know, all of us creatives who make hundreds of millions of dollars by stealing that song from other people, we're getting sued. It's terrible."
Yes, you're really in a league of your own there.
So I feel. I just don't know. I've never done jury service, but I imagine that would be one where you would honestly, you'd be within your rights to just say, let's get it over with. Just guilty. Guilty, don't let me listen to the song anymore.
Well, I was listening to it last night because I was like, I had heard the song before, never on purpose. It just like comes into your life somehow. It's like when I was about 14, I accidentally saw Jessica Mauboy like 3 times, none of them on purpose. She
Oh, my
just kept
goodness.
showing up places I was.
How? Was she stalking you in essence? I mean, what's
No,
what's
it
going
just
on?
like I think she did the Toowoomba Carnival of Flowers, so she was there, and then I think she was at a Scout jamboree I was at. It was weird. I just kept showing up places where Jessica Mauboy was performing.
You hit exactly the right level of uncool events for Jessica Mauboy to be like, of course, we'll Carnival of Flowers, Jessica Mauboy, that makes sense.
She crushed it.
Scout Jamboree, get her out. Eurovision.
Say what you will about Jessica Mauboy, she goes all in every
Absolutely.
time.
She's-
But yeah, I was listening to the Ed Sheeran song, and I guess I can vaguely hear a similar chord progression to Let's Get It On, but it's so sexless that I wouldn't even have made that comparison. Like, I can't believe the people in charge of Marvin Gaye's estate made that comparison.
Actually, that's true.
Because
It's very
so
embarrassing for the Marvin Gaye estate. He probably have plenty of money as it is already. To be going, yeah, we think Ed Sheeran's song is like Marvin's. I would have thought you'd be going, no, there's absolutely no resemblance. And it would be more like defamation if anyone said that there was any resemblance at all. The chord progressions sound somewhat similar to me, but there's not that many chord progressions out there.
There's not. Most songs sound a little bit like each other, unless you add like a brass section, which Marvin Gaye did. So like,
well, you can imagine Ed Sheeran trying to get a brass section together.
no brass section would be
mate.
able to get organized behind that man.
They would simply boycott, wouldn't they? If
They would-
No one's
they'd
playing
be
saxophone
scattered.
on an Ed Sheeran song, surely. Well, Grace, it's been delightful meeting you and hearing about all the massively traumatic things that we just sort of skated over. That I'm sure you unfold in great and hilarious detail on stage.
And Grace's
Thank you.
next show, Graceosophy, will be touring next year. What's the name of this show? I'm not going
It's
to eat
called
it.
This is the Last
This is the Last.
Goldfish That I'm Going to Eat for You.
Yes.
And the next show is going to be called, well, whoops, here's another goldfish.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, have
No,
you going to become...
next year I'm writing a show about nothing. No themes, no tales, just shit I saw on the street.
That's good.
how you get commercially
Shit I saw on the
successful.
street. with
Yeah,
Grace
that's
Jarvis.
good. Yeah, that's good.
It sounds very
Just
honest.
observations of odd people
Yeah.
on the street and pigeons.
Catch Grace at the Sydney Comedy Festival 29th and 30th of April, the 9th to the 13th of May at the New Zealand Comedy Fest, or 2nd to the 13th of August at the Edinburgh Fringe if you're, I don't know, Sarah Kendall or something listening to this.
so.
Our gear is from Road and we're part of the Iconoclast Network. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.